Okay. So, for those of you who saw, probably not very many of you, saw the the other stream that I started. I was using the wrong camera, but it wasn't my fault. There's someone viewing this already? I haven't even shared it with anybody. Okay, whatever. I don't know who you are, but I appreciate you. Um, let's start this stream at 20 seconds. I don't know how it works. Uh-oh, dogs. Okay. So now I guess I'm here. Does it say that one person is watching me or no? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm sure fewer people are going to watch me on YouTube than they did on Facebook, but it's less about people watching me and more about um, the journey. It's not. It's not the destination. It's all about the climb, as Miley Cyrus once said. She said it a lot, actually. In that one song, she said it a bunch of times. I'm sure she also performed that song a bunch of times. Anyway, so I named today Thankful Thursday. Honestly, because I couldn't think of a whole lot of other things. I thought Thankful Thursday would be sort of cliche, and people would see right through it as like an attempt to like be positive in this dark time. But so what? I guess. And honestly, I had thought about this even as far as last night, but I then on my way in here forgot to grab the thing that I was thankful for. So now I'm gonna have to come up with something different. But and my dogs are gonna be running around in the back. So sorry about it. I have my breakfast here. It's real cheese today because I realized that I was rationing the cheese so hard that I wasn't eating it. So that's a good way to waste cheese. So I'm eating cheese now. And I got my coffee. 20 funny, fill your life with laughter and love. Also, 20 honey, get down to business. So I thought that Thankful Thursday would be a good opportunity to bring something, preferably a physical thing that I'm thankful for. And I want to do it in some way that prevents it from getting to be too much, too materialistic, because it's weird to be thankful for things themselves, but sometimes it's very accurate. Like right now, I'm very thankful for my blender that makes me smoothies, because I have been really getting down with smoothies lately. But that is not what I intended to bring today. Nor is it the second thing I intended to bring today after I forgot the thing that I intended to bring today. I didn't like leave it somewhere. I'm just in the other room, but I don't want to like leave you here. Leave you, the 0 people who are watching. I care about you, though, deeply. I do have a lot of things I'm thankful for, though, so this shouldn't be hard to come up with a second one. You want to meet the internet? Come here. Come meet the internet. Oh, she wants to eat the breakfast. Oh, she's so good. She's going to sit so that I can give her the breakfast. But she's already had her breakfast. Come up here. For those of you who don't know, I'm talking to my other dog, Juno. Yesterday you met Finn. Finn likes to just stick his face in wherever your face is, really. Juno's not quite that way, but she is very cute. But she's leaving. Bye. Sorry, real cheese is real good, so I'm enjoying my breakfast for a minute, which I'm sure is just thrilling for you. Yep. Oh, all right. I got nothing. I don't know. But immediately in my vicinity, the things that I can find that I'm grateful for. Michelle Elizabeth's life book. So this takes a bit of explaining. Michelle Elizabeth is the name of the youngest sibling on Full House, for those of you who don't know or remember or whatever. And because she grew up on the show, there's lots of pictures of both her and Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen that span a lifetime, which is why we chose her for this project. When I lived in Pittsburgh, I worked at an organization called JFCS, Jewish Family and Community Services. And I worked in their Family Hope Connection department, which is, or was their adoption and foster care department. And I was an adoption permanency specialist. We didn't do a lot of adoptions. I actually don't know like how many we did, how many private adoptions we did. But we were a private adoption agency. But and we maintained a public foster care license so that we could do foster to adopt things, relationships as well. But we didn't do very many. We definitely didn't do very many of those. Anyway, the majority of what we did was this thing in Pennsylvania that in Pennsylvania is called SWAN, the Statewide Adoption and Permanency Network. Should be swapping, but we didn't do that. It sounded weird. So, Statewide Adoption and Permanency Network. And what we did across the state of Pennsylvania was something called Preparing Children for Permanency. So, where children are in foster care, especially if they're in foster care for a really long time, which happens a lot in Pennsylvania, um, they can lose track of like their history. They don't remember necessarily all the details about like where they were born, whether they have any siblings that they don't live with, um, why they were removed from their parents in the first place, if they were removed, or if their parents died, why their parents died. This is maybe going to be a downer kind of conversation for people, but I don't know. It was my life for a while, so we did a program called, man, I don't even remember. It was just called Child Preparation for Permanency. So you can see this is, and we in that program we would work with a kid for 6 months at minimum and give them a book like this. This was the sample book we made in order to show people what we did. We wanted to use a fake person, so we used Michelle Tanner from Full House, because there's lots of pictures of her like there is of the kids that we would work with, and because she was in fact missing her mom. So we imagined a world in which both her mom had died and her dad had been that she had been removed from her dad for a short period of time. So this is not canon to Full House, Lo Siento. But in this program, we would, you can't read any of that, which is fine. But we would answer the questions: who am I? What happened to me? Where am I going? How will I get there? And when will I know I belong? So then we would break this book up into those questions. And we would do things like find their birth certificate and pictures of them from when they were babies, and also ask the people who were taking care of them when they were babies questions like, when did they get their first tooth? When did they start walking, et cetera, et cetera. And we would answer those questions because a lot of kids have the answers to those questions, or they have easy access to the answers of those questions because their parents know the answers to those questions. But sometimes kids in foster care aren't living with the people who would know the answers. So, or don't know who to ask. Like maybe they are living with that person, but they don't know that they know that's information. So, and then we would give them information on both of their parents. So this was Michelle Tanner's mom. I think there's only one episode of the whole TV show with her mom featured in it. I'm sure they talk about her a lot, but there was only one where she was pictured. And we described her, what she was good at, what she liked. And then we explained why she's not in Michelle's life. And it was because she died in a car accident when Michelle was 2 years old. And we give a little brief family tree to explain like uncles and stuff. So you can see Pamela was her mom's name, and so Uncle Jesse is right here. And we go through that with her dad too. And we also give a little brief medical history for the kids. I'm not going to go through this whole book, but this is the first time I've looked at it in a while. And we would do things like talk about what their name means and what was special about their birthday, things that happened on their birthday, who was president on their birthday, that sort of thing. Then we had all these activities that we would do with them, depending on how old they were. And I don't know, I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for this job. I'm thankful for this job that I had for a couple of years, because it gave me a lot of really great skills. We would have to answer the question, why am I in foster care? And kids aren't dumb, and they'll ask that question because they know that they're supposed to be with both their parents, but they aren't. And so they want to know why, and they want to know why they're different from everybody else. And they want to know if it's because their parents don't love them. And it never is, almost never. I very rarely have met parents who just outright don't love their kids. There are parents who are not super great at loving their kids, is usually the problem. And sometimes that has to do with mental health or mental illnesses, or things like alcoholism, which is a mental illness, or addiction, which were a mental illness. In Pennsylvania, we had a lot of problems with the opioid epidemic, so we had to explain a lot of that to kids. And it says, what is obsessive compulsive disorder, which is evidently in the TV show. The dad has that. I didn't know that until my coworker told me. And we would have to explain not just that, someone would have a mental illness and that would keep them from being able to parent very well until they got it taken care of, whatever that means. But also we had to explain what that mental illness was in a way that a kid could understand, because they don't want just like fake answers. They want the real information. So we would explain alcoholism and drug abuse to small children. And we would try to do it in ways that weren't like too much information for small children, but also not enough information for what they were looking for. When we worked with kids from birth to technically 21, but I never worked with anybody over at 17. I had a couple of my coworkers worked with some people who were over 18, because in Pennsylvania, you can stay in the foster care system. You can opt to stay in the foster care system until you're 21, as long as you stay in school, or like there's conditions you have to meet, but one of them is staying in school, so including college. So if you want to stay in school, you can do that and not leave the foster care system, which is a double-edged sword, because sometimes the foster care system is not a fun place to be, but they do give you a lot of resources, and so you have to. That was one of the things we talked about with teenagers a lot, was like helping them decide whether they wanted to stay in the system or not, and helping them weigh what those choices were being, what they were based off of. We did activities with them. This one was called the Serenity Bucket. You guys know the Serenity Prayer. Serenity, to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. And we would go through and we would write things in their life that bothered them on eggs. And then if there was an egg that they that they were in control of, they would put it in the bucket. So all of these are eggs that were in Michelle's bucket. And then if it was an egg, it was something that they couldn't control, would go outside of the bucket. And so that just gave us opportunities to talk about things that were bothering them that they could take care of, and things that were bothering them that they had to find other ways to deal with because they couldn't fix them themselves. Anyway, I'm thankful for this book because I worked really hard on it. My coworkers and I made this together, and I mean, we made it along with all of the books that we were making for the kids, so it wasn't like wasn't too much of an extra thing to do, but it was it was a little bit harder because the kid wasn't real. So to like make a consistent story. In our story, she went to go live with her Uncle Jesse and Aunt Becky. Yeah, so I'm thankful for this book because I have it, and so it reminds me of the ways in which I can still talk to kids and help kids with difficult topics. And it gives me ideas for how to have these conversations that are difficult. But then I'm also thankful for the job because it gave me a lot of skills around being able to simplify difficult topics. there's nobody really watching this, so I have no way of like taking input. And I don't know if I made this public enough for people to actually watch it. It's a problem that I have, is not fully understanding how these things work. But maybe eventually you'll watch this. And so, what sort of things are you thankful for that are, I mean, this isn't really pertinent to right now. I don't have a lot of children to talk to. And when I do, they aren't asking super difficult questions to conversate about. They have their lives that they want to talk about. So that's really not like time sensitive or time relevant. But do you have any things that you're thankful for that are time sensitive or time relevant? Like I said, I'm probably always thankful for my, I'm just going to call it a smoothie maker because that's all I use it for. But I definitely have been using it a lot lately. So I'm especially thankful for it right now. I'm obviously thankful for my dogs. My dogs are the best and very cute. I don't think they're outside right now. I think Juno probably went to go hang out with my husband, who's sleeping, or sort of sleeping, waking up. And Finn is almost assuredly outside. He like never comes inside if he doesn't have to. I'm super thankful for my husband, especially right now, but always. You don't really think about when you're 24, you have the hubris to decide that you're going to get married, and then it's going to be a good idea, and there's going to be no problems with it. You don't really think about, what am I going to do when I'm stuck with this person 24 hours a day during a pandemic? And I'm really glad that, even though that wasn't a thought process that went through my head when I was writing my vows that one June day in 2014, I'm glad I ended up with the person that I did, because I can't imagine doing this with anybody else. Doing this or anything else, but especially right now, this is on the forefront of my mind. Real cheese, real good. Because I told myself I'd do this for half an hour, but because no one's watching and no one's like chatting at all, I don't really know what to say. I'm thankful for there was a person, I was reading Reddit briefly this morning, and there was a person who had made a post about hoarding. They saw somebody hoarding at Kroger, the local grocery store chain, up north of me, not far from where I live. And it had, on the post, it had said, you know, he had like 34 pounds of ribs in his cart, and was just like carting them back from the meat section back to the cashier. And the person who made the post like said to the guy, "What are you doing? You know, other people maybe want one of those." And the guy was like, "Well, my freezer's out, so I mean my freezer's low on. I need to restock my freezer." And whatever, the guy who posted this thing on Reddit wasn't impressed by the answer, and so it's like, that guy is obnoxious, and I don't like him. But I don't like people who do that. And it was basically just like venting about how people are being dumb and not very considerate to other people right now. Because who needs 34 pounds of ribs? Like, that would take you got to be having parties to be eating that many ribs. Like, bar none. Like, my brothers kill whole deer, whole elk, and spend all year using all the meat. And that's a lot of pounds of ribs, or the equivalent. And like, it takes them a whole year. And 34 pounds of just ribs? That's a lot. Anyway. Also, if you leave them in your freezer for a long time, doesn't that just get them all freezer burned? Probably not if you do it well, but whatever. So I was blown away by that. But then the first comment on this post describing this hoarder, the first comment was a person saying, like, "I'm the grocery manager at that Kroger, and I know I saw the guy you were talking about, and while it sucks that people are hoarding and all this stuff, it's actually a little bit helpful because, you know, I couldn't fully understand what this guy was saying, but he seems to suggest that the ribs were the lowest quality meat that they were getting, but they weren't, but because they had all of those ribs, they couldn't, they were being passed over for getting more meat from their suppliers. And so it's helpful to get rid of the really bad ribs. And I don't know what really bad means, but the really bad ribs, because then they can order more meat because they're out completely. He also then went on to say, "This is when we're going to get toilet paper. This is when we're going to get pasta. I'm really sorry that we haven't gotten any rice recently, but we should be getting a shipment soon." And like all these things. And it was like apropos of nothing. Like, no one was asking him specifically, tell me about, like, he wasn't at work. And so no one was asking him, tell me when you're getting those things back. But he just saw this conversation on the internet and decided to talk about it because, and then he kept saying things like, we're getting rice in for y'all. Like, just thinking about the people who are going to buy the rice. And it struck me as like a really beautiful thing, I guess. That seems to make it sort of cheap when you describe it like that. But it's like, people don't realize, like, I don't realize, that people who work in grocery stores and stuff think about their jobs like this, where it's like, I'm bringing food to other people. And it becomes really clear in times like this that they do, because they say it, and we listen. But it's probably true a lot of the time, especially for people who have made it their career working in grocery stores, thinking about like the people who buy their goods and why they need them and how they use them. And that is important to remember. It's important to remember that people who have chosen to make their living in a certain way don't all think of their job the same way you think of your job. I guess I think of my job very insularly. I guess I'm working with semi-delinquent children. Well, because I don't work in foster care anymore. I work in juvenile justice, but and I guess that could be like people could look at that as like, oh, that's just she just thinks of that as just a job, but it's a career. I chose it, and I worked hard to get where I am, and I wouldn't trade my job for a different one, at least not at this point, unless I could get that job back. But um, the but everybody, there's so many people who are the same way, no matter what their job is. And I think as a society, we look down on people who, uh, for instance, work at grocery stores or work in fast food or, I don't know, work in a job that we assume they don't have a degree to do. Even if they maybe do have a degree or they needed a degree or they self-taught themselves the equivalent of a degree in order to do the job that they're doing. And I hope that one of the things that comes out of this whole experience is a relearning appreciation for all the different corners of society that make society possible, and do so because they want to make society possible, and they know that they're important. Josiah is watching and is asking if I'm playing Age of Empires again today, or if I will play Age of Empires today. Josiah, I'll tell you, I have a Twitch account where I sometimes stream myself playing video games inexplicably. The things that come out of this quarantine are just crazy. But I will not be playing Age of Empires today because I have a lot of things I have to do, which is also weird. Where did that come from? But I'll play Age of Empires on a day someday. Maybe I'll even play with you, bud. Maybe you and I can stream our game of Age of Empires at some point. You, me, Ben. We can get Luke on the call. Assuming Steam doesn't die. I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing lately instead of anything else. So, but I have to go now. I have to go finish a book. I have 2 books to read today. And a Dungeons and Dragons session to prepare for. It may not happen, but I still have to prepare for it because now it's happening online, and those are difficult. But everybody, if you are thankful for anything specific, either in your life right now or just in general, in your life in general, why don't you do what I did and look around you in like the 3 feet square. This is not a 3 foot square at all, but whatever, look around you within arm's length, find the thing that you are thankful for, and write a comment about it, either on the YouTube video or on my Facebook, if that's where you found this. And yeah, thanks for watching. People did watch, so I'm thankful for that too. And tomorrow is Friday. We need something that starts with an F. So if y'all could come up with a blank Friday thing to do that starts with an F, that'd be great. We've had really nice weather here, so maybe it'll be something that's outside. Okay, make good choices.